Attorney Reed, how are you this evening?
I am exceptional. Yourself, Trustee Winston?
Not too shabby. Trustee Matz is going to be behind the scenes, so um, um, she won't be as active, but she'll be in the background.
Okay. Sounds
Okay,
like one to me.
and we are also this time we are also streaming live on YouTube, so that we can start recording these sessions a little bit more, and be able to just share them a little bit easier.
Excellent. Sounds like a winner to me.
Absolutely. So right now, no guest. I can still share this link to Facebook, but then that means I would have to look at 3 platforms. Okay, and yeah, and I will try. Okay.
Okay.
As long as we don't have any spammers, I think we should be okay.
Appreciate the effort. Right. How was the fundraiser? How was your
Attorney Reed,
fundraiser?
how was the fundraiser?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you know what? I mean, it wasn't as good, or the meet and greet wasn't as good as I would have liked it because of your lack of attendance. But next time, you know what I mean? But no, anytime I have a chance to talk with people, and I'm a social being, Attorney Reed, so I like people, and even when some of them are working my last one, I am still there for the people. But it was good times in Richmond High. A nice little turnout. I mean, of course, I would have liked more checks, but it's Rome wasn't built overnight.
No, it was not. But it did burn in one night.
It burned, baby. It was a bonfire.
That it did. That it did.
Yes. So if we get a moment before the night's off, after we turn off our recording, hopefully you can stick around for at least 5 minutes, and I'll turn YouTube off.
Yeah, that should work.
Okay.
That should work. We're at 7:01, so in the interest of having it get started so we can end in a reasonable time, if you want, go ahead and take it off.
Okay. Did you want to? Are you going to still do the presentation? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm going to do the presentation, as I want to go ahead and get some content that we'll be able to have in effect. So we can progress as if though we got a full house, and then we'll have it as a recording and
Absolutely.
be able to move from there.
Absolutely. Attorney Reed, do you want me to make you the host? I mean, would that give you a little bit more controls?
So no, I don't need to be host,
Okay.
Just the screen sharing. Okay. But I would say
all right, so we'll leave it alone. So you're ready to rock and roll. If you're just joining, we are talking about going to a flat property tax. We do this every first and third Wednesday of the month. I am here along with Attorney Reed. He's our subject matter expert, along with Trustee Matz, who is in attendance, but she's in the background. So Attorney Reed, you can have the floor, and this is being recorded. So if anyone misses it, we'll be able to share it, because I'm gonna try to record them and keep them on YouTube so we can start generating a log, which would sometimes make certain that if we need to just quickly share with somebody who can't attend, that they will be able to still view us. So Attorney Reed, you have the floor. I'm gonna bag up.
Excellent. Well, thank you kindly, Trustee Winston, and thank you, Trustee Matz, for always being present, even in the background. So my name is Mario A. Reed. I am the managing law partner for the Marty Law Group, also known as the Law Offices of Mario A. Reed, the Education Esquire. So on this evening, what I'll be talking about and discussing is the reason why, or the reasons why, in the state of Illinois, we need to transition to a flat property tax. And I want to specify that we're talking about property taxes as opposed to income taxes. For those who are unaware or those who might be thinking, don't we already have that? Well, we have a flat income tax of 4.95%. Not this past November, but the November prior, which would have been 2020. There was a state referendum which was put on the ballot as a state constitutional amendment, which would have given our government the authority to amend the Illinois tax code and allow for us to transition from a flat income tax of 4.95% to a progressive tax, which is what our federal system has, as well as the majority of states in the Midwest surrounding the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois is actually the only state in the Midwest that has a flat income tax. Well, our position and our initiative is, if we have a flat income tax, it should then only make sense that we have a flat property tax. Because for the majority of us residents of the state of Illinois, we pay far more in property taxes than we do in income taxes. And way more importantly, property taxes take care of something which, in my opinion, is far more important than what our income taxes take care of. And that is our schools. So the flat property tax really is about creating economic equality in education funding. And that's what tonight's workshop is all about. It's explaining, why are the property taxes in the southern suburbs and in Black and brown communities all over the state of Illinois the highest in the United States of America? And how can we transition to a property tax system which allows for property owners to all pay a fair rate while also getting quality schools and education throughout the state of Illinois? That's what tonight's workshop is going to be about. And if anyone comes on late, feel free to always ask any questions, as the goal of these workshops is to make sure that everyone understands exactly what the problem is, what a prospective solution is, and how it can be easily implemented once the majority of people understand what the problem is. So that's an overview of what we're going to be discussing. Most people are unaware, but the southern suburbs of Chicago have the highest composite property tax rate, average composite property tax rate in the entirety of the United States of America. The Village of Park Forest actually has the highest property tax rate in the United States of America, with an average composite property tax rate of approximately 36%. One of the things that we are really big and keen on as a part of these workshops is making sure that people have access to the data. Oftentimes, you'll attend workshops like these and people will say, oh, this is a statistic that's happening. And it'll be a really shocking statistic that people will get up in arms about, but they don't know where it came from. And sometimes that information isn't accurate. But for us, all of the information that you're going to hear about and is going to be discussed is all available via the public record or the internet. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the 2020 Cook County property tax rates. Every single year, the Cook County Clerk's Office releases the tax rates for all of Cook County. And this is a report which is available via the clerk's website, currently the Honorable Karen A. Yarbrough, that is available for any and everyone to take a look at. It typically comes out in July or August. of the year. And that's because the tax rates typically aren't calculated until about that time. So the 2020 Cook County tax rates release report was released back on August 19th of 2021. This report has a litany of information. If you're someone who has questions about how are my property taxes being calculated, how are they being used, all of those details are available for the public. And we want to make sure that you're aware this report exists. Inside of this report, the clerk's office pulls out a lot of interesting facts and tries to make it as understandable and comprehensible as possible. Every 3 years, each portion of Cook County is broken up into 3 sections and gets reassessed. So the northwest and north suburbs get reassessed in a particular tax year, and then it goes down to the southern suburbs and the southwestern suburbs. Then it goes to the city of Chicago. Every 3 years, there's a rotation, and each 3 years, a particular portion of Cook County gets reassessed. Come 2023, the southern suburbs and the western suburbs are going to be reassessed. And at that point, that's when it is that we can expect to see our assessed values likely increase. However, the portion of this report I want to call your attention to is every single year, the clerk's office calculates which municipalities have the highest average composite property tax rate in Cook County and which 3 municipalities have the lowest average composite property tax rates in Cook County. And this is primarily for the suburbs. As one of the things that a lot of people are unaware of is the city of Chicago actually has one of the lowest property tax rates in all of Cook County, currently at a 6.91% for tax year 2020. And that's because the city of Chicago has a ton of people, a ton of wealthy people, and a ton of commercial and business and industry. The top 3 highest average composite property tax rates in all of Cook County: Park Forest, number 1 at 35.469%. The Village of Phoenix has the second highest average composite property tax rate at 28.159%. And the Village of Ford Heights has the third highest average composite tax rate at 27.94%. These are some of the highest in the United States of America, and Park Forest's tax rate of 35.469% is the highest in all of the United States of America. Now, contrast that with municipalities such as Burr Ridge, which has the lowest average composite tax rate of 6.545%. Hinsdale has the second lowest tax rate of 6.755%, and the Village of Glenview has the third lowest tax rate of 6.94%, and that's for municipalities other than the city of Chicago. You'll notice Chicago technically is third at 6.911%, but oftentimes we back them out because they're not an apples to apples comparison. Most suburbs aren't going to be able to typically compete with what the city of Chicago is doing. So again, this report is available online via the clerk of Cook County's website. Everyone can access it as long as you have access to the internet. There are no special passwords, no code. This tells you what the tax rates are, and then a little bit further in the report, we'll actually show you what each of those particular taxing bodies are that make up the levy that results in the tax rates. For the Village of Park Forest, it shows how many different taxing bodies comprise that 35.469% tax rate. You have the County of Cook, you have Consolidated Elections, you have the Forest Preserve, Rich Township, General Assistance for Rich Township, Road and Bridges in Rich Township, the Village of Park Forest, the Village of Park Forest's Library Fund. You have School District 162, School District 163, School District 194, Rich Township High School District 227, Prairie State Community College. That's a total of 5 different school districts, and that's just within the Cook County portion of Park Forest. Park Forest technically has a Will County portion as well that also has additional school districts. In total, there are 8 different school districts which Park Forestians are contributing to. So with all of that being said, the number one reason why the Village of Park Forest has the highest property tax rate in all of the United States of America is because of the public schools and the fact that the local residents are currently paying for the majority of the schools in Park Forest. According to the Illinois Constitution, which once again, this information is available online. So Illinois State Constitution, you just type it into Google, it pulls up the Constitution for the state of Illinois. We go to Article 10, which refers to education. In Article 10, Section 1, Paragraph 3, the Constitution explicitly states that the state has the primary responsibility for financing the system of public education. That is what the Constitution, which was ratified in 1975, indicates and outlines regarding the primary responsibility for the financing of the system of public education. What does that mean? Well, very simply, it means the state of Illinois should be contributing at least 50.001% towards public schools, all public schools in the state of Illinois. That's what this means. The Constitution, the highest law of the land in the state of Illinois, land of Lincoln, is very clear. The state has the primary responsibility for financing the system of public education. However, that currently is not happening. How we can find out how much is the state contributing, we just go to the Illinois State report card for schools. It brings up IllinoisReportCard.com. You can check and see how much is the state of Illinois contributing to any school district or any school in the entire state of Illinois. Now, because we looked at that last municipality of Park Forest, one of the schools districts that they're contributing to was Rich Township High School District 227. So let's do HST 227. And there it is, Rich Township High School 227. All right. So here we are. We have Rich Township High School School District 227. According to the state of Illinois Board of Education, District 227 needs $53 million in funding in order to simply be adequate. That's to just be adequate. That means to turn the lights on, be able to pay all of the teachers, the pensions, and all the other liabilities that go along, or I won't even say liabilities, but the responsibilities that go along with high school, school district 227. $53 million. However, despite the fact that Park Forest has the highest property tax rate in all of the United States of America, somehow, some way, the school district was only able to raise $40 million, which means that there was a $13 million budget windfall for the schools to just be adequate. Why is that? Why couldn't the taxpayers come up with $53 million, especially since Park Forest has the highest property tax rate in all of the United States of America? Well, let's take a look. In order to find out, we go to where it says district environment, and then we click on where it says district finances. Here it is as a much larger graphic. $52,573,273 is what Rich Township needed in order to be adequate. That's in order to be average, in order to be a C student in terms of the funding for its schools. Rich Township needed $52,573,273, but they only received $40,238,523. Why couldn't they come up with 52 million? Well, the answer lies in how much is the state of Illinois contributing? We talked about it. The Constitution says the state is supposed to contribute 50.001%. But when we go and actually look at the revenue percentages, which again, all this information is public record and available to the public, the state of Illinois only contributed 21.6%. 21.6%. They couldn't even contribute a quarter. For every dollar that the school needed, the state of Illinois couldn't even contribute a quarter. They contributed 2 dimes and a penny, which means that the bulk of the responsibility now gets pushed on to the local taxpayers. And in Park Forest, they have too many schools that they have to be responsible for, and they just don't have enough money. There simply isn't enough wealth in Park Forest to allow for the property tax payers to generate enough money, enough revenue in order to fund a $53 million high school. And that's why Park Forestians aren't supposed to be covering the bulk, 72.6% of the schools. The state of Illinois is supposed to be contributing 50.0001%. And right now it's not even getting halfway as close to what it's supposed to be contributing. The state averages just 27%. So remember, the Constitution says they're supposed to be at least at 50.001%. The state isn't even sniffing that. It's not like they're 48%, so they're close. It's not like they're 40%, so they're a work in progress. They are almost half of what the state of Illinois' Constitution says they're supposed to be contributing. This is the problem. If you are tired of high property taxes and poor schools in your community, and you can't quite figure out why is it this way, it's because the state of Illinois is not contributing its fair share and constitutional mandate to the public schools. So I'm going to pause here and see if by chance, it doesn't look like we've had anybody join via the Zoom, but just in case there's someone out there on YouTube or any of the other platforms, or Trustee Winston, if you have any questions that you think would help to make sure that people are understanding what's being communicated.
Thank you, Attorney Reed. Right now, there are no questions that are being asked. We do have some people that are viewing it on YouTube, which is a good thing, but no comments have come through. Attorney Reed, with this flat property tax, and there's so many tax-related issues that are coming up this year, especially. I see now that Cook County is putting an enormous amount of these homes back on the market. Is there, with the inflation, is there going to be any impact to homeowners because of the inflation and because of the number of houses that are actually going back to the market? Is that something that we also should consider?
So I'm glad that you asked that question, and I'm glad you bring it up. So thankfully, as it pertains to inflation, that's not something that really has a major impact on homeowners, because remember, who's creating these property tax rates? How does that come about?
It's the multiplier, correct? Is the multiplier?
No. So the multiplier plays a role in it, but the multiplier doesn't determine the tax rate. The multiplier simply determines the assessed value. What did you all just do? You as a trustee, what did you reach? I'm hoping that you all have finally reached consensus. And what did you all reach consensus regarding?
The levy?
Correct. And more importantly, for those people out in YouTube land, we don't really typically call it a levy. We typically call it a budget, which technically amounts to a levy, but all the municipalities across Cook County, and really the whole state of Illinois, but we're talking about Cook County, the trustees and the mayor, they proposed the budget, and then they squabbled about it, and then they came to a consensus, and then they settled on a budget. Once they've settled on that budget, that then results in them getting a levy or requesting a certain levy. The power to levy is what is a lot of what government is all about. Well, if that didn't just happen as it relates to the municipalities, but the school boards, they did that. And all of those taxing bodies, which I'm going to put back up for Park Forest. So Rich Township went through that process. The school boards did that process. The who else do we have? We have the library funds. They went through that process. So when you all were going through that process of coming up with your budget, did you take inflation into consideration at all?
We did.
You said you did?
We did.
Okay, perfect. But to what degree could you? Because how do you know what impact inflation is going to have?
Well, we base a lot of those the cost of living increases on inflation rates, and that makes us look at how we're going to be spending over the next 12 months. Certain things that we wanted to do, maybe we need to hold off. So that inflationary number, no doubt, it's going to impact how many villages such as mine moves forward with their budget. We didn't pass a budget. We're still working on ours. We have a working budget in place. Attorney Reed, yes. Don't shame the wonderful village of Glenwood, but we have a budget that's in the works that probably will not be before the board before I'm going to say about August. I understand. And right now there are no numbers from last year that were actual audited number. That's a whole nother story. But we are doing our budget in real time.
Yeah, just not really fishing time, but okay. All right. So then go back to what your question is. Yes, inflation will have an impact, but only in so much that all of these different taxing bodies take it into consideration and adjust their levies. When it comes to property taxes is a reactionary game. There's nothing that's proactive about property taxes. We literally are paying 2021's taxes now in 2022. That puts into perspective how reactionary we are. So think about that. In theory, when was the 2021 budget and levy supposed to have been set?
Your question was when was the levy should have been set?
So in theory,
yeah,
right. When would the 2021 levy be set and put in place? In an ideal world, it would have been put in place ideally about 2020, right?
That is correct.
So whatever was going on in 2020, which we remember, there was a pandemic in place, that then would have impacted the budget for 2021. Well, whatever that budget was that came to fruition, we're now paying for that in 2022. So that's the amount of gap that we're talking about in terms of if inflation's happening right now in 2022 and the village of Glenwood is saying, hey, we got this inflation, they're making budgetary decisions now that aren't going to be actually realized and the impact of them until 2024, most likely, because the 2022 budget, once it finally gets in place and that levy gets going, those taxes are going to be paid in 2023. But because we're still talking about a budget, it's really going to bleed over into 2023, which means 2024 is when you're going to see that. So the answer to that question in a very roundabout way is inflation is not going to impact the property taxes. It'll impact maybe your sales tax. It'll impact perhaps how much revenue you'll need because people might start buying less gas and everything like that. But all of these taxing bodies that are here in Glenwood, Boone Township, parts of Thornton Township, the village of Glenwood, School District 153, 167, 206, they're not necessarily making the bulk of their decisions about their budgets based on inflation. They're making it based on how many police officers are we looking to retain? How many buildings do we have to maintain and pay for? All of those things that, just like for most homeowners and most people in general, are going to be there. Whether inflation happens or not, you still got to account for that. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is, don't get fooled by those headlines you see where the county is now reintroducing or returning to the tax sale. The tax sale has nothing to do with properties getting back onto the tax rolls. That's not how the tax sale works, contrary to popular opinion. When someone buys property taxes at the annual tax sale, they're buying them for 2019. And what that means is that the money that the county didn't collect from 2019, a tax buyer is now going to come in and say, I'll give you the money for that property. But they're not necessarily saying that they're going to pay the 2020 taxes. They're not saying that they're necessarily going to pay the 2021 taxes. They're not getting the house. They're simply saying, I'm going to pay for 2019 or earlier's taxes, which gives me now first position to potentially pay off the 2020 taxes, the 2021 taxes, if they don't go pay, or the 2022 and 2023 taxes. And then if the property owner doesn't pay me my money back for those taxes that I paid, eventually a year and a half after the time period is ran, I then can petition the court to go to deed, and I can eventually get a judge to give me a tax deed. And then after all those years and all of those tax payments, then I'll become the owner of the property. And what happens in most cases is most tax buyers realize, crap, I don't want to keep paying property taxes for a property that I don't own. And I don't want to wait for a tax buyer to come in or a property owner to come in at the last minute and redeem my taxes and then deprive me of the property, which was really what I wanted. So because of that, they simply stop paying for those additional subsequent years. And then the property just continues to remain abandoned, and it never actually makes it back onto the tax rolls. What will oftentimes happen is that the Cook County Land Bank will go and say, let's take this property, eliminate that tax liability, and then sell it for a discounted price to any prospective buyers. So to answer your question about that, the tax sale has been happening since the 1800s. And all these properties that you see that the taxes haven't been paid, it's going to end up, they'll be as a part of the annual sale or the scavenger sale in coming years. And we'll never actually realize that revenue, because once a property has several $1,000s worth of back taxes, the tax buyer says, why would I pay 80 grand in back taxes when the property itself might only be worth 40 grand? Let me just go buy a 40 grand property that's on the open market, and then I'm all the better because of it.
Thank you very much, Attorney Reed, for explaining that.
Not a problem. And I'm sorry that you thought that the tax sale that was happening was going to somehow magically fix things, but no, it won't. That's the reason why.
Well, my hope, Attorney Reed, was that because those properties would be returned to the tax, and my thinking was they would be returned back to the tax roll, that would offer some property relief to other property owners.
Yeah, and that's, again, another one of the common misconceptions that exist out there. So as a question for you, do you know what percentage the village of Glenwood actually collects property taxes?
How much goes to the village of Glenwood?
No. So the village of Glenwood sets a budget and says, hey, we need $34 million.
Yes.
And all of the property owners in Glenwood, they get their tax bill. What percentage of Glenwoodians actually pay their tax bill? So if let's say that you needed $30,000 or $30 million, how much did Glenwood and all these taxing bodies actually get from people who paid their property taxes?
Attorney Reed, that I probably know that number, and I don't know it right at this moment.
Okay, so that's a great, I'm glad that you brought this up, because this isn't something that we've ever really kind of touched on. But what percentage of property tax revenue did Glenwood, Illinois collect in 2020? There's a report, and because I don't look at this report regularly, I'm not exactly sure. There was an article which was written about it. It was reported that, as an example, Fort Heights didn't even collect 40% of the property tax revenue. So less than 40% of all property owners and business owners in Fort Heights actually pay the bill. And that's what happens. So all these people that are in Glenwood, and now what we can do is we can look at the property tax report. For instance, you know how many properties in Glenwood were up for sale at the tax sale?
No, I don't know. I didn't look at that list, but it is not. We don't have an overwhelming amount, thank heavens. But there.
How do you know? How do you know that?
I did. I think I skimmed through it this year. I really didn't do a whole lot. It just came out, that list. So I didn't take as much time as I normally do, but it's normally not as many in this list that I would like. I watch it from time to time.
So let's quantify it. So just throw out a ballpark figure. What's a number? Because you keep saying it's not an overwhelming. What is an overwhelming number for
how many properties that are on the delinquent tax roll?
Yep.
I'm going to say maybe 50.
I guarantee you there's more than 50 properties in Glenwood.
Fine. Okay, let's say
without 100. Even ever having looked at it, I guarantee.
Okay. Well, let's see the number, because I think most people in Glenwood go ahead and pay those taxes.
It doesn't work that way, trustee. It doesn't work. And again, this is part of why I'm glad we are doing these workshops. I wish more people were here, because there's a difference between perception and reality. And so frequently when it comes to something as dense and as really kind of hidden, if you will, as this, we have these perceptions, but the reality is very different. So I just came to the Cook County Treasurer's website, Maria Pappas, and then you can go right to the list for properties with delinquent taxes. You can search by municipality in the city of Chicago. You can search by ward. You can search by township. You can search by representative or senator district, as well as commissioner district. I highly recommend, as trustee for Glenwood, this is a report that every year you should have, because this is value added. You can literally go to these people's houses and knock on the door and say, hey, I'm not sure if you're aware, but your property's up for the tax sale. And they might not even know it, because
I'm pretty certain they will love me when I walk up to their house and tell
there
them.
You go. That's what. But if there's only 50,
hey, Attorney Reed,
wow. So you were correct.
I told you.
Only 16.
Yes,
it
not
is
that many.
Only 16. You would have won that wager. Good for you. Good for you. Let me turn this down, because
no worries. The check's in the mail, okay? But I knew it wasn't that many. Most of the people, I know that much. And Glenwood, generally, most of them generally pay the taxes.
So this is good to know. So the biggest offender is Glenwoody. So the villas of Glenwoody. And these are probably absentee owners.
Attorney, give me that. Attorney Reed, give me that website again.
Yes. So it's just the treasurer. So countytreasurer.com. I'm going to go back through it so that way you can see it from scratch, and you can do this because it's value added for any one of your constituents. So countytreasurer.com. This is what the treasurer's website looks like. And then right here where it says avoid the tax sales, right in the middle of the page. You click on where it says 2019 annual tax sale information.
Okay.
And then, nope, I'm sorry. So we don't have to do that because we don't want. So download list of delinquent properties.
There it is. Download the list. Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yes.
Okay.
And then from here, you can search for us in the suburbs. We'd search by municipality. Then you can go right to yours.
Okay.
Now, you know what? I'm curious. Let's see what Glenwood's working with. Not that it's of particular concern to yourself, but let's take a look. Here we go. So this is about what I was expecting, but that's fantastic. Kudos. Let me give you all a round of applause in Glenwood. That is probably one of the smallest lists in all the South suburbs. This is what I'm accustomed to.
Trustee Matz wants you to also do Olympia Fields.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So again, value added as a trustee and also just as a neighbor, because a lot of times the people on these lists are seniors. Typically, it's for very small minimal amounts. So here we go, 44. So this is about the list that I would be expecting for Glenwood. So here we are in affluent Olympia Fields. The Olympia Fields has the highest Black home ownership rate in the United States of America. Out of every single municipality in all of the United States of America, Olympia Fields has the highest. And we have 44 different pins. Now, looking at it, it looks like whoever it is that's at Nottingham Court, wherever that is in Olympia Fields, I'm guessing it's probably like a subdivision or some type of association. They have a ton of pins which are now up for sale. And that's really what it is. If you get rid of Nottingham Court, which looks like it's owned by Lawn Logistics, there probably would only be about 10 or 12, if that. So that's good to see. It looks like it's a lot of commercial properties that's going. But here's the list. So what happens is that, let's say that I want to be a tax buyer who signed up, paid my money so I could go. Yeah, this is vacant land. That's it. No tax buyer is ever going to buy this. Because if I'm a tax buyer, why do I want to pay $1,000 to get the lien and then wait another 3 years and pay another $1,000, only then to have to pay roughly $4,000 to take it to tax deed and pay an attorney in order to get me the tax deed? And then at the conclusion of all of this, I've spent $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, and all I get is a vacant lot. It simply isn't a very practical or financially savvy move, especially when we're talking about vacant land. Now, up here, we have a residential. So let's take a look at this residential. So we have two residentials. Remember when I said that a lot of times it's seniors? Well, this residential property owner, Rhonda McNair, who probably died, and she's not even here anymore, but at 20433 Kedzie Avenue in Olympia Fields, the amount a tax buyer would have to pay in order to get the lien is $966. If the tax buyer buys this lien and then pays the taxes for the next 3 years, at that point, they'll be able to go to deed and they might get this property for $7,000, $8,000, when all this owner had to do was take care of this balance. So that's what it is that goes on with the tax sale. But in terms of money that's missing, in the case of Olympia Fields, in the case of Glenwood, even in the case of Linwood, it isn't real money. So to go back to what started this portion of the conversation, Trustee Winston, if all of the taxes on all these properties were paid, all that's going to do in terms of adding revenue to Olympia Fields, we're talking less than $1 million. And that's not just Olympia Fields. Remember, that's all of the taxing bodies in Olympia Fields. So what you're talking about is $1 million was missing. Even if a tax buyer came in and spent the million, if one tax buyer said, I want to buy every single property that's available for tax sale in Olympia Fields, here's $1 million. That's not going to have any impact whatsoever on the tax rate in Olympia Fields, as well as whether or not the tax rate will be able to go down because now there's this influx of new money. That's what's going on in the tax sale. These are the quantified numbers. Now, to put that into perspective, let's go and take a look at Park Forest, which has the highest tax rate, and see what that would mean for them. So for Park Forest, we're going to click on the list. So we click on the list, and we have 127 pins. The total due, 1.5 million, which still isn't bad. So it's not as if though it's this astronomical number. Little did I know that they actually put the total amount right up top. So you even have to try and estimate. 431,000 is what's missing in Olympia Fields. And then 107,000. So Trustee Winston, you could just reach in your seat cushions and you could take care of that.
And I sure will. Okay. As soon as I get a seat with a cushion in it. Okay.
Okay. Well, I look forward to it. So Park Forest, you're talking about 1.5 million. So to get back to your initial question, no, sir. Even if the tax buyers come in and they buy up every property or every lien, because it's not the property, it's just the tax lien, it's still not going to have any real impact on the bottom line of Park Forest because it's not really all that much that's missing. So great questions and great conversation and this dichotomy that I don't think we've never looked at these reports. So it's a good introduction to reports and information that's out there that a lot of people are unaware of. So now that we've seen what the problem is that the state of Illinois is supposed to be contributing 50%. In the case of Rich Township, they only contributed 21.6%. Now, a lot of people will say, well, hey, Park Forest has schools, but in addition to Park Forest, Burr Ridge has schools too. So why is it Burr Ridge is the lowest at 6 point? Let's go back to the report. I want to make sure that we always get the accurate numbers. I don't want for anybody to say, oh, you said this and that's not what it is. No, I'm taking the numbers directly from the report, right from the source. My father would always say from the horse's mouth. So Aaron Yarborough's office said the village of Burr Ridge has the lowest at 6.545%. Don't they have schools? The answer is yes, they absolutely do. Let's take a look and see what their schools' finances are. So we're going to do Burr Ridge, Illinois. All right, so we've got Burr Ridge and the schools for Burr Ridge high schools. Let's take a look. So we got down the Grove. What's their high school? You know what? Let's try this a little bit easier. Google knows everything. What high school does Burr Ridge, Illinois, send its kids to? You just ask Google. So Google says that if you're in Burr Ridge, it's Hinsdale. Okay, makes sense to me. So now we're going to search for Hinsdale School District. So Hinsdale is HSD 86. Good to know. All right. So the high schools in Hinsdale, this is very interesting. They also needed 56 million. So that's about the same amount that Rich Township's high school needed. It's within $1 million. And it makes sense because essentially we're talking about school districts that have probably the same amount of students, very close. So you got Rich Township, which is Richmond Park, Park Forest, Olympia Fields, Matson, parts of Chicago Heights, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have Hinsdale Township, which we know is Burr Ridge. Each of those school districts needs $56 million. Rich Township didn't even get 41 million. So they were short roughly $15 million. However, Hinsdale, which has Burr Ridge in it, they need 56 million, but somehow, some way, they have $78 million. That is $22 million more than what the state of Illinois said they need to be just adequate. How is that possible? Well, here's how it's possible. Because when we go to the district environment and then we look at the district finances, we get a much larger graphic that shows $56,088,899 is what was needed. $77,995,238 is what was received. And where did the money come from? Well, we go to revenue percentages. When we go to revenue percentages, we see the state didn't even contribute 6%. A lot of people will say, well, that's great because the state only gave 21% to Rich Township, so they're giving less to Hinsdale. No, that's not great because the reason why Hinsdale Township can afford for their taxpayers to pay 93% is because the residents of Burr Ridge, which send their kids to Hinsdale, have so much more money. And this we can find out because what are the demographics of Burr Ridge, Illinois? We just go right to Google. We ask what are the demographics. We look at Data USA, IO. And here we are. Burr Ridge, Illinois is a population of roughly 11,000 residents. The median household income is $160,000. The median property value is $686,000. This is why Burr Ridge has the lowest property tax rate in all of Cook County, because in order to come up with that amount of $56 million, you only have to take a small percentage of $686,000 homes. And that's the median, which means that you have lots of $1 million homes in Burr Ridge. Now let's contrast that with the village of Park Forest. Demographics. The demographics of Park Forest look very different. And it's not only the demographics in terms of race, gender, age, all of that stuff. Most importantly, it's the financials. You have twice as many residents in Park Forest. Burr Ridge has 10,700. Park Forest has a population of 21,500. It's almost double exactly, almost on the nose. However, even though you have twice as many residents, in terms of the median household income, it's 1/3 of the money that Burr Ridgians are making annually. $53,938. Again, it's almost on the nose. If we multiply that times 3, that gives us what each household in Burr Ridge makes. Now, that's not even so problematic because remember, our property taxes aren't based on how much the household brings in. Our property taxes are based on the assessed value of our homes. So if we just, and again, for kicks and giggles, this isn't actually how it works, but let's say kicks and giggles, the assessor's office is accurately assessing the property values in Burr Ridge. That means that the average property value in Burr Ridge is $687,000. However, the average property value in Park Forest is $73,000. So imagine what chunk of the $73,000 you have to take in order to raise $57 million. It's going to be huge. It's going to be 36% huge. Whereas if all you have to do is raise $57 million in Burr Ridge, now, instead of you having to take 36%, all you have to take is 6%, because 6% of $686,000, let's just do the math. So if we were to do about the calculator, we have to, so 6 $186,600 times 0.06. That's way too much. Well, no, it's not. Well, so it gives you an idea. That's $41,000. That's how much 6% of $686,000 is. $41,000. Now let's do the math. What is 36% of $73,600? So $73,600 times 0.6. That's still only $26,000. Oh my God. So the reason why Burr Ridge has the lowest tax rate in all of Cook County is because you only need to take a very tiny infinitesimal percentage to generate a lot of money because they have a lot of money. Park Forest doesn't have a lot of money and their homes aren't worth much. So you have to take a huge chunk of the pie in order to fund your schools. Trustee Winston, you were going to say something.
Well, it's Attorney Reed. Thank you again. It's interesting. I was recently over in Park Forest and I met a young lady who's a current trustee who's running for state rep, who ended up taking a lot of your sound bites there, Attorney Reed, which is a good thing. I think it is a very good thing. But it just doesn't seem, when they were talking about economic development in that area, it just doesn't seem like, and I mean, this was the whole entire administration, that most of them even, recognize the clear and kind of present danger, right? When they were talking about, their downtown court area there where they struggled to get a grocery store, people just weren't moving, businesses aren't flocking there. In fact, this was during the daytime on a Monday. It was relatively empty over in that area, and they're contributing the taxes really to the lack of those businesses being in that space, and they just seem to be almost tone deaf. What can we do about that?
There's no almost about it. They are tone deaf, and it's because before you were introduced to this information, did you have any clue about all of this stuff? All of these things that over the last year plus, did you have any clue about a lot of it?
I didn't. I had no clue. And that's what was so refreshing, right? Because, in many instances, people, they come up with these, consolidate, they're just throwing anything at the wall, right? And they have no clear pathway of really addressing the elephant in the room, which is just following the Constitution, right? Would do away. They want to reinvent a lot of things, and I think that without looking at the clear and the shortest distance to get to where we're going, which would be just following the Constitution, right? It seems like that would be the easiest, most reasonable way to do that. No consolidation of governments where you're going to have to deal with everybody's ego in different communities, right? But it just seems like, as opposed to addressing the simplicity, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just think it's just so simple that it's got to be something we're overlooking.
But it's not simple, and that's the part. So it is direct. It is clear cut. It's not simple, and that's the part where it's a dangerous dance in which we play. So whenever it is that someone's willing to listen, it's my goal to try and simplify this very complex information as best as possible. But if you found yourself face to face with a voter or a constituent, do you think it's easier to break down going to a flat tax versus saying, if we get more businesses, it'll solve it? Which one would be easier?
Well, you know what? Attorney Reed, to be honest with you, I don't even think that it's a matter of being easy anymore. I think that there have been talking points that were used during campaigns. I think that now
because it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy. We just adopted
those talking points come and they exist because of ease. That's the literal definition of a talking point. It's what's easy to communicate and what's easy for my audience to comprehend. That's why you create talking points. It's for ease. The flat tax isn't easy. It's not easy for people to conceptualize. That's the reason why we need people to show up for, give us an hour. As you've seen and you've lived it, we've went through it. We've traveled all around. We've went to Rockford. We've went down south. It takes people usually an hour to get it, because you got to push through some building blocks. We got to tell them about the Constitution. We have to tell them about the existing system. We got to tell them, how do we collect money? How does money go out? And then we got to tell them, if we go to 10%, it's going to hurt these people. It's going to improve these people. And then they're good. That's the formula. What politician do you know who says, let me invest a good hour with each and every one of the people who are upset about the property taxes?
Well, I know two in particular, Attorney Reed.
So do I.
Yes,
so do I, which is why
two.
we're here.
That is correct.
Do I know 200 others? I don't even. We had a state senator who was upset about his own property tax bill. And we said, we got a solution, not just for you, but all of these people that you represent. And that state senator said, can you come and get it in before noon? Because I'm not really interested in sticking around after noon to hear about it. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about individuals who say, I only care in the moment, but if I got to invest any more time than 10, 15 minutes, it's not worth it. I'm just going to suck it up and continue to pay, even though I'm throwing millions of dollars away, even though our children are suffering drastically, even though we don't have the services that Burr Ridge has. When you go to Hinsdale Township and look at their facilities, it's state of the art. It's sprawling. They do all of these things for their seniors. They're just flush with cash. Their schools have escalators in them. Their schools have cafeterias, sometimes with Panda Express. It's unreal how these communities are living. And it's all because the state of Illinois has the worst funding formula. But when I go to Park Forest, and we've been, remember we did the meeting with the village or with the League of Women Voters, and we had all these people. We were invited, we were going to go to the village hall. It ended up not being there. It's tough for people to understand the flat property tax rate when it's not explained over the course of usually an hour. So all of these village administrators, Tom Mick, so not to mention people by name, but all of these individuals, it's much easier to say, as long as we get businesses, we'll be okay, because it's an easy distraction. And that's what it is that oftentimes within government and within politics, they're more concerned with. I used to work for the Cook County Recorder Deeds Office, and my job was fraud protection and prevention. Because I'm an attorney, I studied all of the laws, and then I uncovered so many things that the recorder's office was doing incorrectly that they weren't consistent with the laws. The recorder's office had been there since the 1800s. And I would say, why is it that you guys aren't following the laws? And they would say, because we never knew. I would say, but these are the laws for the recorder. Like
Attorney Reed, isn't ignorance of the law
no defense of the law?
Defense.
But the problem is that if the ignorance of the law stretches not only to the people who are supposed to be adhering to it, but the people who can hold them accountable, then it's not ignorance of the law, it's just the way it is. And that's what it is that happened. That's where we're at as a society, as a culture, as communities. The people in Park Forest don't even know that they right now are the victims of a legislature which isn't following the state constitution. Because when was the last time you picked up the state constitution and read through it?
I'm working on that along with some other books, like the Bible and all those other books that I need to start.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure by the end of 2024, you will be able to check off the state constitution and the Bible. Both.
Listen, I will at least have them on my nightstand along with all of the other books that I have to read.
Well, there you go. But I can guarantee you, no one in Park Forest, I guarantee there's not a single resident in Park Forest, not even that young lady that's running for state rep or senator, whatever it is that she is. So yes, it's fantastic that she's taken sound bites from what it is that we put together and she's advocating it. The problem is that she's going to do us more harm, because when someone asks her a legitimate question, because she hasn't committed to actually studying it and learning it, she's going to get tripped up. And then that's going to prompt for that person to think less of what it is that she's advocating for. And that's the problem. So when you go out and say, hey, let's do this, if you start to stutter, if you start to stumble, what is that person who's listening to you going to think of whatever you're trying to pitch them?
That they're not.
And you're absolutely correct, because when we met with the state representative and the state senator, they told us they only had 45 minutes, and then 2 hours later,
yeah,
they were still there because they tried to trip you up and they could not.
Nope.
They could not trip you up. And so the young lady in Park Forest who's running for a state rep, I heard her at a forum and she mentioned the Constitution at 50.000%. And I was like, oh my God. Well, I called her up and I said, hey, we need to educate you on, I mean, you're on the right direction. And if we can get you down in Springfield once you win and you champion for the books to be opened up and let us in, we want to make sure that you know exactly what you should know while you're talking about it. And I see she's not on the call tonight.
Yep. And she's not going to be. And I have, remember, so I've been living this since 2006 when I was at the Metropolitan Planning Council. I've seen so many come and go. I remember when we went down to Springfield with Senator Meeks, and it's a case where people get excited about, like, and again, we've been doing this for a year. At the end of every one of the calls, when we have people on, they're always energized. They're always, what do we got to do? Where do we sign up? Like, where's the petition? People want the microwave approach. That young lady, she wants the microwave. Hey, I want to use this to my benefit. And I'm all for it. I do not care if people literally download the presentation and then put their name on it. I don't care, because that's of no consequence to me. But I know that in the end, it's only going to cause more harm, because when she starts talking about 50.001% in the state constitution, that's only the very top layer of this. She has no clue about the funding formula. She has no clue about the difference between the multiplier and what it is. And that's where the issues come in. Because as you all have seen over the course of over a year, how many times do we get people who they do have an understanding of some aspect of it, about property tax appeals or about the funding for the townships and so forth. And then they ask me that question and I'm able to take them directly to the tax bill or directly to the treasurer's website and give it. That's what it is that creates confidence in whatever's being sold. When that young lady won't be able to do that, we then just lost a prospective ambassador because the wrong person was conveying it. And that's just the nature of what happens in what we do. But yes, it takes an hour. As you mentioned, Trustee Matz, we had the senator and we had the representative who said, look, we got this time. But then not only were they trying to trip me up, the person who said, I'm just an innocent bystander, I'm not going to interact or involve, he said, I got to throw that to the wind and I want to jump in on this too. And let me start to try and throw things, and he couldn't. So it's a case where Park Forest wants to believe that there's a microwave solution. Everybody does. Everyone we're running into wants to believe if I bring Amazon into my community, if I bring Walmart into my community, all of my problems will go away. And it's just the nature of humanity. Humanity doesn't want to put in the work to get together, lobby our legislators, lobby the entire legislature, have hearings. Like, we should be having Senate hearings and House of Representative hearings, and we should have commissions and studies. I'm all for that. But we gotta, at a minimum, get people to understand the Constitution of the state of Illinois indicates this is what we should have, and we don't have that. And the reason why is because Thaddeus Jones and Napoleon Harris have never once sat down and said, hey, I should do what's best for my constituents with the number one concern in Thornton Township. And while I applaud Debbie Myers-Martin for attending, she said, well, I'm for it, but she never followed through on it. DeLuca, Joy, the list goes on and on. So
can you quickly pull up East St. Louis?
For what? Demographics?
For them being in a deficit with their school district.
Yes. So St. Louis. So let's go to the report card. And then let's find out what high school does East St. Louis go to.
So we all going to East St. Louis, you, me, and Adam.
All right.
And we're going to educate them. And just what you gave today, talking about the myth of getting commercial property to ease the pain of your taxes. We're going there to educate the board and the mayor.
Beautiful.
And Trustee Matt, thank you. And Attorney Reed, that's what I was going to talk to you about off the YouTube channel.
Okay. So I would say we're at 8:10. So I'd say that you can go ahead, and unless there's a question that's came in, we're pretty good where we've given a lot of so we've given a lot of information really quickly so that it is on the actual recording. The goal of this initiative is to transition to a flat property tax rate of 10% for the entire state of Illinois. By transitioning to a flat property tax rate of 10% for the entire state of Illinois, that will ensure that every single municipality throughout Illinois has a tax rate of 10%. By going to a property tax rate of 10%, based on the wealthiest communities having their tax rates go from 6.5% up to 10%, that will generate an additional potentially $4 billion worth of new revenue. And that money and funds can be used to fund our public schools consistently so that every single school district throughout the state of Illinois is funded at an adequacy rate of 100%. That will also ensure that if you are in a community such as Park Forest or Olympia Fields or Glenwood or Richmond Park, your tax rate will go from 35% all the way down to 10%, which will mean your tax bill will be cut by 66% if you're in Park Forest. So if you previously had a $10,000 property tax bill, you'll now have a $3,400 tax bill, and your schools will be fully funded. That's what it is that this initiative is proposing. The state of Illinois' Constitution actually mandates it and allows for it, so we don't have to change any laws as it relates to the Constitution. We simply have to have our legislators change the funding formula, which they have the authority to do, and we have to accept and embrace that everyone in the state of Illinois should want for all of our children to attend fully funded schools. So that's what the Flat Property Tax Initiative is about. There's constitutional backing for it already. We just need for the people to become understanding that's what it is that's necessary and how we can get to that. Thank you.
All right, you said a mouthful, and hopefully our listeners that are tuned in on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter will come on board and help us get the word out and become ambassadors to make sure that their property tax is fair and make sure that the schools are funded.
Absolutely. And that concludes our session for the flat property tax for this session. And we shall see you at the first Wednesday of next month, which would be the month of June. And I look forward to Attorney Reed and the company of Trustee Matz. Until next time, guys, we are no longer